Hello, and welcome to another video of historical history. Today I'm going to take you all the way to Northern Africa to go and talk about the richest person in history who had over $400 billion in today's money, more than anybody else in history. I am of course talking about Mansa Musa, who was the king of Mali. Now if you're not familiar with Mansa Musa or the king of Mali, keep watching this video because I will explain it all. What do you think of as rich? Today the richest people are tech billionaires or royals from many different places on earth. However, nobody would think that the richest person in history was from the continent of Africa. People think of Africa as impoverished, but it wasn't always that way. Many parts of Africa are definitely in poverty today, but that would be an entirely different video, and it has many different causes. But back 800 years ago in the 1300s, Africa wasn't like that at all. In fact, Africa was one of the richest places on earth. Europe at the time was going through the Dark Ages, and there were diseases and plagues and civil wars, and nothing really good was going on there. But in Africa there was riches, there was gold, there was the desert, they had so much there. And the richest place of all was the Kingdom of Mali, which is spread out across many present-day African countries, including the country of Mali. If you do know all of these countries and have heard of all of them, congratulations, you are a geography expert. In comes Mansa Musa. He has inherited this rich kingdom in the late 1200s. This is a kingdom that is stocked with gold and has hundreds of thousands of people living under his rule. But Mansa Musa turns this wealthy kingdom into an even wealthier kingdom. He buys land, he makes trading deals, and he does so much to make this kingdom even wealthier, which puts many more amounts of money in his pockets. Now, as a devout Muslim, Mansa Musa had one last thing to do, which was to travel to Mecca for the pilgrimage, or Hajj, which is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. Now today you can just hop on a flight, go to Mecca, and it is definitely not as hard as it was back then. Back then they still had to travel to Mecca, but Mansa Musa was all the way in Mali, so he had to travel for many months to get to Mecca. And this trip is one of the most memorable trips in history. So Mansa Musa wasn't going to travel alone. He wasn't just going to take one camel and go over to Mecca. He needed to show off a little. So he brought with him 60,000 men and 10,000 slaves to go with him to Mecca. But even the slaves didn't look like slaves because they were wearing Persian textiles, and they were also carrying many pounds of gold. And he traveled with 100 camels, and he traveled with many horses and mules and peacocks and really any animal that you can think of. Wait, this reminds me of something. Where does this come from? Yes, this definitely does remind me of Aladdin. And Mansa Musa's journey was much similar, except Mansa Musa did not have a genie with him. Now Mansa Musa decided that he was going to go and give away gold to help the fellow peoples of North Africa. So he was just giving away gold. He had thousands of pounds of gold with him, so it didn't really hurt him at all. And this wasn't really an issue, of course, until he got to Cairo, which is the capital of Egypt. And in Cairo, he decided to give away gold to everybody, and there was gold in the streets. Now this sounds amazing, but ultimately this deflated the Egyptian currency, but more on that later. So Mansa Musa continued on to Mecca, and he got to Mecca in time for Hajj, and he prayed there, and he visited the Grand Mosque, and then he traveled back. Now when he got back to Egypt, Egypt was not doing so well, and they had actually spiraled down into an economic depression because of hyperinflation. There was just too much gold in the system. So Mansa Musa was very sad, and he tried to help out, so he borrowed back a lot of the gold at very high interest rates. Now this helped out a little bit, and Mansa Musa continued on his way back. But Egypt still suffered, and for the next 10 years they still went through an economic depression. It took them 10 years to get out of it. Now, he wasn't just going to Mecca on this trip, he also was purchasing some territory, including the Kingdom of Gao. And he eventually made it back to the Kingdom of Mali, and that is where he took his next steps. Now, when he got back, he decided to revitalize the kingdom, and he went to Timbuktu, which is a real place, and it is in Mali, and he decided to build a huge university there in Timbuktu. And that university people came to from all over the world. People now see Timbuktu as this fantasy place, but it was this real place where people came from all over the world to study there. It was incredible. Even in Timbuktu, where there's nothing around it, there's desert for 1,000 miles around it, people still came. And Mansa Musa still wanted to build up the city and to create more places there. Now, the big question you may have is, what happened to the Kingdom of Mali? Now, the Kingdom of Mali was rich, and it was wealthy, and it had so much. But after Mansa Musa died in the early 1300s, it started to go through decline. Mansa Musa passed it down to his sons. They took over, they weren't as good, they were a bit corrupt, and the kingdom sort of spiraled down, eventually breaking up into smaller kingdoms and then eventually going defunct in 1600. Thank you for watching my video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun making this. If you want to get notified when I post a new video, make sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the like button, and it'll help me out a lot. So thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.